Australia's national identity, as viewed from the eyes of other countries, can often be inaccurate and strange. But one thing that has recently been debated as part of the national identity of Australia is that of the Anzacs. The Anzac legend begins on the 25th of April 1915, when the first Anzacs, or the Australian and New Zealand Army Corps, landed on the shores of the then Ottoman Empire, now Turkey, at Gallipoli. Throughout the fighting until the eventual retreat on the 20th of December 1915, Australian soldiers were believed to have shown exemplary courage and prowess in the battlefield, with the prime example of this being William "Fighting Mac" Mackenzie, an Australian chaplain who earned the respect of his peers through not only his beliefs and kindness, but also his strength and military capabilities. However, this does not answer the question of whether the Anzacs are a part of the Australian national identity. Australia, as viewed through the lens of other countries, most likely does not include the Anzacs, as instead our national identity seems to be compromised of beaches, civil rights, and our dangerous animals that seem to roam everywhere. On the other hand, Australia's identity as viewed through its own inhabitants definitely does include the Anzacs, as shown by the several 100,000 Australians who celebrate and commemorate Anzac Day. But just because the Anzac legend is part of our view of our national identity doesn't mean it should be. There are quite a few problems with having the Anzac legend as part of Australia's national identity. That's not to say that we should dishonour or forget the sacrifices that the Anzacs or indeed any military personnel have made, but there are definitely some issues. Firstly, the Anzac legend is a tale of white males with European backgrounds. Despite the values that are believed to have been shown on the battlefield, such as courage, endurance, sacrifice, and mateship, does this story really represent the quarter of Australians who are of an ethnicity other than European? As a country renowned for its multiculturalism, should a story like this really represent Australia in its entirety? Another issue with the Anzacs is the idea that Australia truly became a country in 1915 when we proved ourselves to the world. This insinuates that, according to this narrative, the nation is made not by voyagers from the homeland to the new land, but by voyagers who travel in the reverse direction, outwards to prove themselves in the wider world. This idea places the actions of war above all the accomplishments and effort that led to Australian Federation in 1901. Yet another thing is the problem with having a wartime story in which the horror of the Gallipoli campaign that claimed 2 out of 3 dead or wounded is the forefront. Should the Anzac legend that has now been reborn as a myth for all Australians represent Australia, a very non-militaristic country? Even though the Anzac legend has now been reborn as a myth for all Australians, we should wonder, do we want a story in which William Mackenzie wrote, "Many of the bravest and the best are gone. War is nothing short of insensitive folly. It is inconclusive in its results and devastating in its ultimate consequences," to be the central part of our identity? So, while the story of the Anzacs should be remembered, it should not be the central part of Australia's identity, as it takes attention away from the other achievements in Australian history and celebrates the tragic amount of loss and pain that was suffered, as well as being a story that isn't inclusive to other cultures and ethnicities.